The WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade. Now at episode 150. Woohoo! Another milestone in the books here. As I am Ray Russell, and this week, guys, we are bringing to you October 1988 in the WWF News and Results. That's right, guys, and I want to wish everyone out there happy holidays, upcoming Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and all of that good stuff in between. As we're getting into the holiday season now, hope everybody out there stays safe on the roads. If you're listening to this program, pay attention to the vehicles in front of you and behind you. As my grandma used to say, it's not how good you can drive, it's how good everyone else around you can drive, right? So everybody stay safe out there on those roads during the holiday season, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you another one right around Christmas time. But right now we're going to jump back into things here again, now in another month here of 1988 in the project, October to be exact, and we're going to go into the October news right out of the gate, and we have an injury report for you guys involving Harley Race, the king of the World Wrestling Federation. Well, who's the king? I wonder how that's going to play out. Anywho, Harley Race scheduled to return to action right here in the month of October, and if you guys remember, it was several months ago now. Actually, the injury took place prior to WrestleMania 4 at the Saturday night's main event taping. Harley having internal injuries after taking a dive off the apron through a table, missing the Hulkster. Race would go on to perform in the Battle Royal and take a nasty bump to the floor on his gut, by the way, to be eliminated there as part of that Battle Royal at WrestleMania. And then off to the races, or off to surgery, Harley went, and they removed something like 18 inches of his intestine. Ugh, don't even want to think about that. But Race is expected back. Now, he was supposed to return the first week of October here on the house shows, but as we're going to see in the results, Harley will be returning as part of the WWF's October European Tour. You heard me right. And during that tour, we're even going to see the former 7-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, now crowned the king, Harley Race, dance to the ring with Akeem. No lying, guys. Check out my social media in the days to come. And with Harley Race back, again, one has to wonder, what does that mean for King Haku? Could be a dilemma in the Heenan family before we know it. Also, as we move on to the month of October, we're going to see the Warlord is injured briefly here in the fall season, as we're going to be seeing the Barbarian go at it solo on a few occasions on some of the house shows. But don't worry, Powers of Pain fans, Warlord going to be back in the action before the end of the month. And speaking of the Powers of Pain, their new manager, the Baron, aka Baron von Raschke, already gone from the company. Now, he will finish up on the October 5th and October 6th TV tapings, which will air into the first week of November. So he debuted at the end of August TV tapings, worked SummerSlam, and then works again here on these early October tapings because there were no tapings in September. So I guess it's safe to say a very short-lived run here as the manager of the Powers of Pain. The WWF clearly has new plans for the POP. So thanks for coming, Baron. It worked for me. I like the look, but one too many managers, pal, I suppose. As we continue on, other names leaving the company here in October include The Rock, Don Muraco, and the Junkyard Dog. They're going to both find themselves fired upon their return from the upcoming European tour. And I believe their final date is somewhere around October 16th, guys, so pay attention to that. But reportedly, complaints of the two came from issues during the European tour. And those stories range from an incident with the police, lots of alleged drug use, and even issues on the plane ride home. So now Muraco in the past has chalked it up to the fact that they simply knew they were getting rid of some of the talent at this point in time, and he was going to be one of them. Some say Vince McMahon was simply cutting some fat. And Junkyard Dog, I suppose I get the point there, but I doubt Vince McMahon would have just terminated Muraco outright with that look, with that body, with those hoses, dude, without some form of provocation. Nevertheless, by mid-October, we're going to see the end of the Rock Don Muraco as well as the JYD. As we move on, going off to Hollywood, and Rowdy Roddy Piper, his very first movie, guys, They Live, has been postponed. Originally going to be released Halloween weekend, October 29th, opening now, November 4th. Going to jump ahead a week. We're going to see how They Live does in the theater as we move on. Also, spoiler alert, the mighty Hercules will be making a babyface turn in the upcoming weeks on WWF TV. Now, many of you may have noticed the seeds that have been vaguely planted by one Bobby the Brain Heenan in recent weeks on Primetime Wrestling during his commentary. How will the separation of Hercules from the Heenan family go down? Stay tuned to find out, guys. And right now, it's been some time, but it's the perfect time to bring back a little segment that I like to call Break It Down. Break it down! All right, guys, it is time to break it down right here, talking about the never-ending feud between England and, I guess we'll call it France, or is that French Canada? Or is it now the United States? I don't know. I confuse myself sometimes, but time to address the elephant in the room. The time has finally arrived. The infamous behind-the-scenes feud between the British Bulldogs and the Fabulous Rougeau brothers. Now, where the issues truly began, it's hard to say. But by the stories told, it doesn't sound like the Rougeaus and Bulldogs ever quite got along or traveled in the same circles. And between the Dynamite Kid's Napoleon complex, and you guys know the reported bullying, the nasty ribs, and likely a dash of roid rage thrown in there somewhere, mixed with the acquired taste and personality of one Jacques Rougeau, and you have yourself a very volatile cocktail, no doubt about it. Now, there had been issues in the past, words exchanged, and there are various versions of the accounts I'm about to tell you guys. So I encourage everyone to go out there, listen to all sides, decide for yourself. But I think no matter how it played out, I think we can all come to the same conclusion in the end. Now, there's Dynamite Kid's version in his book. Jacques Rougeau did a lengthy shoot interview on this many years ago. Raymond Rougeau has discussed it as well. And the Hart Foundation even did a shoot interview discussing this, not to mention the likes of Bad News Brown, Jimmy Hart. Bruce Pritchard has talked about it on his podcast. Many others have all discussed their take on the issues between the Bulldogs and the Rougeaus. Now, the notorious ribbers, the Bulldogs, but more specifically Dynamite, had supposedly been hounding Jacques as of late, laying in the ribs, being a little more abrasive, until one fateful night when it appeared that the Bulldogs had double-locked Jacques' suitcase while the Rougeaus were wrestling in the ring. Now, in hindsight, come to find out, it was actually the perfect prankster, one Curt Hennig, who played the rib, but he framed the Bulldogs in the process, unaware of what would follow. Now, supposedly what happened next was Jacques warned Dynamite and spoke with Pat Patterson, of course, Vince's right-hand man and a fellow French-Canadian. So Pat went to Vince, and Vince came down on the Bulldogs, telling them to cool it out on the ribs, guys. Well, A, Dynamite, he didn't pull the rib, but B, Dynamite Kid now saw Jacques as a stooge of sorts, a snitch, if you will. And finally, one night, Miami, Florida, September 29th, the end of last month, Jacques Rougeau seated in a locker room, Dynamite Kid coming up from behind and whacking Jacques across the side of his face, took him down off his seat and began drilling into him. Hard right hands reportedly busting Jacques' nose open, while brother Raymond unfortunately forced to stand by and watch. Now, Raymond, not a coward, a former boxer and well-known salty fighter, somebody you did not want to screw with. Ray had been nursing a bad knee at the time, working a little bit in the ring, staying on the apron for the most part, but basically walking around with crutches the rest of the time. Now, many felt that Dynamite took advantage of Jacques here, knowing Raymond wouldn't be able to save his brother, but also attacking Jacques from behind. Now, reportedly, when Dynamite was pulled off of Jacques, Raymond had words with the Dynamite Kid, and the Kid offering to fight Raymond when he was healthy. How kind. So, needless to say, the tension was there, and so Jacques Rougeau knew that he would have to respond. Hell, Dynamite likely knew something was coming. but nobody knew when or what. Let's fast forward then 6 days later, October 5th, Fort Wayne, Indiana, at a Superstars TV taping. Now, Vince McMahon had gotten wind that the ribs were getting out of hand. There was the attack in the locker room. Morale was low because the superstars, the wrestlers, didn't know what to expect next. They even had fear of an explosion in the locker room of sorts. And so Vince had planned that very day in Fort Wayne to address the entire locker room and shut it all down before moving forward. And the Rougeaus, being alerted of this prior to, they had a good idea of what this meeting was going to be about, so they knew they had to act fast. Or more specifically, Jacques knew he had to act fast. Now, this is a fun one here. As Jacques Rougeau has stated in the past, he used his father's old advice. When it was time to fight fire with fire, it was time to go to the bank. And the first time I heard that, it left me scratching my head. But then he explained, go to the bank for a roll of quarters. So Jacques Rougeau admitted now, I'm no fighter, unlike his brother Raymond. Jacques simply an entertainer out there, but he was still willing to stand up for himself. And so Jacques went to the bank, grabbed that roll of quarters, showed up at the TV tapings, waiting in the hallway outside of the dining area. And as Dynamite Kid left the catering, if you will, he walked down into that hallway and wham, blammo, Jacques Rougeau swung his fist, roll of quarters in hand, with all his might straight into the mouth of one Dynamite Kid who did not see it coming. Raymond would reportedly have to pull Jacques off, shouting, that's enough, as Jacques Rougeau continued to drill the Dynamite Kid with this roll of quarters, reportedly knocking multiple teeth out, splitting the Dynamite Kid's mouth open, busting his nose, doing a lot of damage to the Dynamite Kid. Now, Bruce Pritchard, on his podcast, he described the melee himself. He said there was just a lot of people shouting and a faucet of blood squirting out of a bent-over Dynamite Kid's mouth and nose. Dynamite just trying to get his hands up and block as Jacques was just picking his shots, laying him in, bam, bam. Pritchard continued on with the story. He said Dynamite had no defense at that point. Jacques beat him up pretty good, but Raymond was there to ensure nobody got involved. Raymond encouraging others to step back, telling them that this is their fight. You let them fight. Till finally Pat Patterson there to break it up. Now, many would say that payback is a bitch, and Dynamite Kid had it coming. Even those who felt that Jacques did it in a cowardly fashion, the attack, they too even admit that, well, Dynamite, he had repercussions coming. The initial punch and the ones thereafter did so much damage to the kid that he lost 4 teeth. As they lay on the ground, he had to pick them up. Again, the mouth busted wide open, damage done. Now, some say that Pat Patterson had a part in it. Maybe he wasn't part of the actual fight, but being a fellow French Canadian, they say that Pat acted as a lookout for Jacques to give him the opportunity for said payback. Now, needless to say, the Dynamite Kid unable to compete that day, and the Bulldogs were ushered out of the building. Dynamite for medical attention. Meanwhile, the Rougeaus also left the taping at that point without competing because, you see, knowing what they had planned in advance, they kept their bags packed and left immediately after the attack, assuming that, well, they'd be fired. But they would return the next day in Toledo for the Wrestling Challenge tapings. The Bulldogs would go on a European tour for the next few weeks in a happy coincidence to keep these two teams as far apart as possible. Now, in the interim, both teams and the entire locker room were warned of incidents like this moving forward. Obviously, if Vince McMahon had felt the Rougeaus were in the wrong, they wouldn't have been working here the following TV taping. But after the Bulldogs returned from Europe, McMahon sat all 4 men down together at the same time and gave them the, you either learn to work together or you don't work at all here, pal, speech. From there, the teams forced to shake hands in some reports, and it was said it was all back to business, though obviously someone with the complex of a Dynamite Kid would certainly hold a grudge and likely count the days until seeking revenge himself. Now, not much longer after that, the Bulldogs would give their notice to the WWF and be omitted from the upcoming TV tapings, with their final night scheduled to be the giant 20-man, 10-team match at the WWF Survivor Series in 1988 right there at the Richfield Coliseum. And on the Bulldogs' last night in the company at the pay-per-view, one of their opposing teams would be the Fabulous Rougeaus. Aha! Connecting the dots, many thought this was the perfect opportunity for Dynamite Kid to get his revenge in the ring, since the Bulldogs had nothing left to lose. However, the WWF, perhaps wisely, booked the Rougeaus to be eliminated early in the contest so that they could remove them from the Coliseum immediately after their elimination to assure there would be no issues between the two teams after the matchup. Now, to the surprise of many, or at least some, Dynamite would step in the ring with the Rougeaus early in that match and cooperate safely and professionally without any further issue. Now, later in the match, the Bulldogs would be eliminated, ending their time in the WWF. Davey Boy, now we know, will return in just under 2 years' time with the company. Meanwhile, Dynamite Kid's nagging injuries eventually going to plague him into early retirement. And that's basically the gist, the story of the feud, the ongoing feud behind the scenes between the Bulldogs and the Fabulous Rougeaus. Dynamite, always the bully, always the nasty ribber, if you will. There's a fun rib, they say, and a nasty rib. Dynamite was certainly the king of the nasty ones. And he took his shots, obviously physically assaulting Jacques Rougeau at one point. Many would say unprovoked. Jacques going to finally retaliate one fateful night there, busting the teeth out of the mouth of one Dynamite Kid. You'd have to say that maybe he had it coming. The company did nothing to the Rougeaus, so you have to assume that even Vince McMahon and the other higher-ups felt, well, he had to do something. Maybe not that, but what's done is done. And of course, Vince laying down the mandate, never again in my locker room, pal. And truthfully, even though there's a handful of fights down the road, obviously, this may have been the biggest noteworthy fight, given the injuries ensued, and it just worked out that right after these set of TV tapings, the Bulldogs off to Europe for several weeks to kind of let cooler heads prevail, but they were already booked, so it just worked out perfectly here for the both teams, I'd have to say, as that is the story of the Brits and the French Canadians, soon to be making their home, their residence right here in the good old US of A. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Break It Down.
Break it down!
Whew, good times there, guys. And before we get rolling into October results, we're going to take this brief WrestleCopia timeout.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron over at Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia podcast network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
Welcome back to the program, guys. And don't forget to head on over right now to the historyofwwe.com. Great site kept up by Graham Cawthon and, of course, Richard Land. Click on those 1988 results and scroll along with me as we look at some of the results here for October 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation. And away we go with October results here as we start out the month. We got 3 troops out there on the house show circuit, including a 4-night tour, October 1st through the 4th, looking at places like Wichita, Kansas, the Kansas Coliseum, Omaha, Nebraska, the Civic Auditorium in front of over 8,400 fans, Des Moines, Iowa, Veterans Memorial Auditorium, and October 4th, Flint, Michigan at the IMA Sports Arena, coming out to see the likes of Dino Bravo over B. Brian Blair, Terry Taylor defeats Sam Houston, Brutus the Barber Beefcake continuing to score victories over Ron Bass, but it is Bass attacking Beefer after the match with Miss Betsy, and even attempting to use those spurs, the Maverick brothers, whatever their names are this week, the Rockers making the save most nights there. Also on these cards, IC Champion Ultimate Warrior, downing the Honky Tonk Man in short matches, reportedly going anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, Warrior scoring wins by disqualification after interference from Jimmy Hart each and every night of this tour. Also the Rockers continuing to defeat the Conquistadors, Bad News Brown clean wins over Tito Santana, King Haku putting down the Junkyard Dog, Scott Casey over Sandy Beach, and WWF Champion, the Macho Man Randy Savage, battling Andre the Giant to a double countout as they continue to do the story with Andre grabbing Elizabeth and injuring her ankle at the end of the matchups, looking for return matches, I would have to assume, in these cities between the Macho Man and the Giant. As we continue on 5 nights in a row, October 1st through the 7th, we're going to see shows in Madison, Wisconsin, Dane County Coliseum, Rockford, Illinois at the Metro Center, Lansing, Michigan at the Civic Center, Battle Creek, Michigan, RVD Country at the Kellogg Civic Center in front of just 1,900 fans. Also Tampa, Florida at the Sundome. Going to see results like this. Jimmy Powers over Iron Mike Sharp, Blue Blazer defeating Barry Horowitz, Mr. Perfect over Jumping Jim Brunzell, the Fabulous Rougeaus scoring victories over the Hart Foundation. It's The Rock Don Muraco putting down Greg the Hammer Valentine. See, he wasn't on his way out, going over as late as October 7th. Yeah. Anywho, also on the cards here, Tag Champions Demolition downing the British Bulldogs, Jake the Snake Roberts scoring pinfall victories over Ravishing Rick Rude, and the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan himself, picking up victories over the Big Boss Man. And so that begins. Now, in the smaller towns, a couple of these shows, Battle Creek and Lansing, Hulk Hogan, not there. Ain't happening, people. Instead, it's the Big Boss Man picking up wins over Pork Chop Cash. You heard me right. That could have been fun. Also, during this period, 10 shows in 10 days. talking about October 1st through the 10th as we do a giant West Coast loop starting in Pendleton, Oregon, and moving down to Salem, Roseburg, Oregon, Eureka, California, Chico, California, Stockton, Larkspur, California, San Jose in front of just 1,500 fans, Modesto, California at the Merced College, and finally Barstow, California at Barstow College. As you might suspect, yes, indeed, the C shows based on the venues. Now, scheduled was to be the return of the King, Harley Race, but Harley not quite ready yet. He's going to be back by the European Tour mid-month, but instead, we get a matchup featuring Coco Samoa. Well, we're out here on the West Coast. Coco Samoa scoring wins over Bulldog Bob Brown. Wow. Welcome to the WWF Bulldog. Also on those cards, Hercules defeating Ken Patera, Paul Roma over Dangerous Danny Davis. See how they have the Stallions separated, guys? Keep an eye on that. Midget action on these cards. Going to see Karate Kid take down Little Tokyo. Powers of Pain over the Bolsheviks. Also in Stockton and Chico, remember I talked about the Warlord being injured? They bring in the Hart Foundation, picking up victories over the Bolsheviks. And every night, the main event, going to see Hacksaw Jim Duggan score a win over the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. As we roll on to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum. Wow, that's a mouthful. For the next set of WWF Superstars tapings, also taking place October the 5th. And on those tapings, some matches slated for Primetime Wrestling, including October 18th edition of Primetime, going to feature the likes of the Blue Blazers scoring a win over Jose Estrada, that's one of the Conquistadors. B. Brian Blair picking up a pinfall victory over Barry Horowitz. Also taped for the October 25th primetime, Tito Santana battling Ravishing Rick Rude to a near 15-minute time limit draw. And a fun little segment there, post-match, Rick Rude going to kiss one of the lovely ladies from the crowd, instead getting drop kicked to the floor by Tito, and Santana going to pick up the smooch instead. Now in dark matches on the Superstars taping, Hulk Hogan over the Boss Man by countout, Intercontinental Champion Warrior over Honky Tonk Man, again by DQ, and WWF Champion Randy Savage pinning Bad News Brown. But remember the old WWF slogan, guys, if it didn't happen on TV, it didn't really happen. So I guess Bad News still undefeated to the rest of the world as we move on to, I should have mentioned that set of tapings we just covered feature the backstage altercation between the Bulldogs and the Rougeaus. So we will not be seeing them on the last set of tapings, nor this one coming up here in Toledo, October the 6th, in front of nearly 10,000 fans, wrestling challenge taping, but also matches taped for Primetime Wrestling. October the 11th, going to see Jimmy Powers over Chris Curtis with the Powers Slam. Also for October 11th Primetime, Big Boss Man downing Frankie DeFalco with the old Boss Man Slam. Then from there, taped for the October 25th Primetime, it's the Rockers over the Rougeaus by disqualification after Jimmy Hart throwing in his megaphone for use by Brother Raymond. Also to air October 25th, here's a key one, guys. The Brain Busters. That is Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, now part of the World Wrestling Federation, and they were also part of that Superstars taping, I should add. Going to be airing upcoming very soon, later in the month of October. The Brain Busters, now part of the WWF, with manager Bobby Heenan by their side, picking up a win here against Sam Houston and Scott Casey. Also, November 15th primetime, the Conquistadors over John Latu and Bob Emery. Plus a handful of dark matches here. Going to see the Warrior over the Honky Tonk Man. Jake Roberts pinning Ravishing Rick Rude after a slap from Cheryl distracting Rude, allowing the Snake to get the win. And Hulk Hogan picking up a victory over the Big Boss Man one more time. As we roll on, guys, it's off to the European Tour, including 2 televised events. And they're out there, guys. Stay tuned to my social media for some of those highlights as we head off to October 7th in Paris, France at Bercy Stadium, televised on Canal Plus. We're going to see the likes of Greg the Hammer Valentine over the Rock Don Muraco. Hammer removing his shin guard, blasting it over the head of the Rock and scoring the win there. Also, Andre the Giant picking up a pinfall victory over the Junkyard Dog. Now, I know what you're thinking. November of '88, probably not the prettiest match, but to see these two go at it, even on paper, sounds fun. But we're not done yet, as history is made right here in Paris as Rockin' Robin pins the WWF Ladies Champion, the sensational Sherry. Robin, now the new WWF Women's Champion, scoring a win with a Bulldog off the ropes. Robin picking up the victory and the new champion. although I would not want to be in Robin's shoes, knowing that there should be a rematch coming against the sensational one. Also on the card in Paris, Lanny Poffo over Barry Horowitz. Tag team champions Demolition defeat the British Bulldogs, and the WWF champion Randy Savage makes it to France, scoring a victory over an early matchup involving the African Dream, Akeem. Savage picking up the victory by disqualification after Akeem throwing the referee, Tim White, who was on this tour, down to the mat. The Macho Man picking up a DQ victory, obviously going to retain there. Now, October 14th, the WWF to Brescia, Italy, and also Milan, Italy on October the 15th, which is televised on Italia 1. And on the card here in Milan, Lanny Poffo over Barry Horowitz. Andre the Giant defeating Tito Santana. Santana trying for a sunset flip, and Andre countering by simply dropping down on top. The big butt drop, picking up the victory there for Andre. But the fun begins post-match. Tito Santana landing his patented flying forearm, sending Andre staggering backwards, catching himself in the ropes. Tito laying into the Giant to send the fans home happy there, but the action going to continue. Greg the Hammer Valentine again over Don Muraco. Rockin' Robin making it 2 in a row, picking up a victory over the sensational Sherry. British Bulldogs defeating the WWF Tag Team Champions Demolition. Tonight, Dynamite pinning Axe with a high cross body block from the top rope. Now the matchup, unfortunately, non-title here, but the Bulldogs do go over, maybe their first pinfall over Demolition that I can recall. And then the final match of the night, going to see the King, Harley Race, return to action over B. Brian Blair. So Harley Race, part of the European tour and back in the WWF as we move on to Rome, Italy, also televised on Italia 1, October the 16th. Don Muraco over Barry Horowitz. Greg Valentine defeating Leaping Lanny Poffo. Andre the Giant again over Tito Santana. Plus, and this is a fun one here, this Akeem and Harley Race. What a duo. You guys can actually go onto my social media very soon and see the King strut his stuff, dance his way to the ring and in the ring with the African Dream himself. Harley Race and Akeem picking up a victory over B. Brian Blair and the Junkyard Dog. Also on the card, Sensational Sherry reportedly defeating Rockin' Robin. Got to do a little digging on that one. And tag team champions Demolition back to their winning ways, scoring a pinfall over the British Bulldogs to close out the show. As one more show reportedly here in Italy on October the 18th in Cagliari. And I'm sure I butchered that name. No results that night there, but you can kind of get an idea of the troops. It's Demolition and the Bulldogs every night. It seems like it's Muraco and Valentine most nights. Of course, Sherry and Robin, the only ladies on the tour, so you can kind of put most of the action together here. Looks like it's Andre and Tito most nights as well, outside of his match with the dog. So we're going to come back to North America here, head back to the country of Canada, in fact. October 8th, 2 shows that day, a matinee and an evening show, as well as October 9th, going to Moncton, New Brunswick, Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Montreal, Quebec. And remember, this is the 8th and the 9th, so this is actually prior to the European tour. So we're going to see some very familiar names as part of this show, including B. Brian Blair over Richard Charland, King Haku defeating Hillbilly Jim, the Rougeaus scoring victories over the Hart Foundation continues on, and WWF champion Randy Savage battling Dino Bravo to double disqualifications in no count-out matches, specifically in Montreal. So they're bringing the big guns here in French Canada. Montreal going to see Dino Bravo get a title shot against the Macho Man. Very unique. Now, also October 9th in Canada, the WWF headed up to Toronto, Ontario, and the Maple Leaf Gardens. And this show featuring Gorilla Monsoon and Sean Mooney on commentary. And peculiar by its absence, a staple to the Maple Leaf Gardens, the ramp to the ring not used for this particular event. Very weird indeed. To see the Maple Leaf Gardens without the ramp, an odd sight indeed. As we go to the ring, it's Scott Casey over Richard Charland, B. Brian Blair defeating Iron Mike Sharp, Blue Blazer over Steve Lombardi, Bad News Brown with the Ghetto Blaster over Coco Beware, Dino Bravo coming to town again to take on the WWF champion Macho Man Randy Savage. Bravo going over on a countout. Match going about 11 minutes as they do the old angle where Bravo going to shove Elizabeth down, injure the lovely Miss Liz, forcing Savage to carry her backstage. How kind, causing the countout, but the Macho Man returns to the ring, vowing revenge when they return later this month to the Gardens. Macho Man and Dino Bravo, October 23rd. Stay tuned for that, guys. Also here, On this event, it's the Hart Foundation downing the Fabulous Rougeaus, with the special guest referee being Brother Love. The Rougeaus picking the referee here in Brother Love, and you might ask, well, how did the Hart Foundation go over? Well, Love cheated one too many times for the Fabulous Rougeaus. The Harts had enough of it and tossed him from the ring, allowing referee John Bonello, still here, at least in Canada, Bonello coming in to make the 1-2-3, putting the Hart Foundation over. Post-match, Brother Love getting a little heat back, if you will, by downing referee John Bonello. Also on the card here at the Maple Leaf Gardens, King Haku pinning Hillbilly Jim, and the Ultimate Warrior over the Honky Tonk Man by DQ after interference once again from manager Jimmy Hart. As we roll on, several shows here upcoming October 8th, 9th, and 10th in Houston, Texas at the Summit, Portland, Oregon at the Memorial Coliseum, and Edmonton, Alberta at the Northlands Coliseum, drawing 15,000 fans in Edmonton, I might add, for the big matchup involving the Big Boss Man coming to town to take on the Hulkster himself. We're going to hear from both sides of that. We're also going to hear from the likes of Jake Roberts and Rick Rude, big matchup coming there, and even the Outlaw, Ron Bass.
Hello once again, sports fans. Billy Red Lions here again for the World Wrestling Federation, and with a reminder to everyone in the Edmonton area that the World Wrestling Federation is bringing another Power Pack card to Edmonton's beautiful Northlands Coliseum on Monday, October the 10th. Now the big main event has the one and only Hulk Hogan coming to the Northlands Coliseum, and he will be going against the Big Boss Man. In a return bout, Jake the Snake Roberts, he will take on the Ravishing One Rick Rude. Brutus the Barber Beefcake, he will go against Outlaw Ron Bass. Tag team action, the Rockers make their first appearance here, and they will go against the Conquistadors. Young Sam Houston, he will battle newcomer Terry Taylor. And Jumping Jim Brunzell, one half of the Killer Bees, will take on newcomer Curt Hennig. Now at this time, let's go to one half of the big main event, the Big Boss Man and his manager, the Doctor of Style.
Hogan, the man who's supposed to be a hero to millions of kids, adults, women's. He eats in the finest restaurants. He drives in the finest automobiles. But boy, you got the wrong idea if you think I care. Because all I'm going to do is beat you, and beat you some more, and beat you till you can't walk, can't move, till nobody looks up to you, till they looking up to me. I'm the authority figure. I'm the man people ought to be looking up to. Tell him, Slick.
You know why he's gonna do it, Hogan? Because he doesn't like you, and I don't like you, and I'm gonna stick him on you because he's got a mean streak. He's the biggest, he's the baddest, he's number one, he's a boss man.
Well, one of the matches that I know everyone is looking forward to are about between the Ravishing One Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts.
Come on, you tell me what I'm supposed to feel, Rude. Huh? You think I'm supposed to feel good? You think I'm going to swallow my pride, man, and just walk away? Or maybe stick my tail down between my legs like some little scalded pup? Come on, man. Nobody touches my wife. I mean, there's some things a man will fight for. Maybe he won't fight for his country, his human rights, or even his own money. But any man's going to fight for his woman. And, brother, you think you're too hot for me? Give me a break. I'm much too cold for you.
And this man, the one and only Hulk Hogan, facing the Big Boss Man.
That's what it's all about, Big Boss Man. Take a good look at it, dude. That 357-pound girth of yours is going to have to face Hulkamania, man. It's the greatest thing there ever was. It's the greatest thing going right now and into the future, man. I'll guide us into the 1990s, training, saying our prayers, and eating our vitamins. But you know, Big Boss Man, I've been checking you out, dude. When I went through the Atlanta airport the other day, I called some friends of mine, the Georgia Satellites. And they laid the straight-up stiff rap on me all about you, dude. They told me when you were in the Cobb County Correctional Institution, man, how you used to deal with the inmates, man, how you used to jam them in the ribs if they weren't snoring properly. Well, let me tell you something, Big Boss Man. I got a nickname too, dude. The Hulkster, wherever I go, all my people, they call me Champ, brother, because I've never been beat, man. I've never been pinned in the center of the ring for a 1, 2, 3. I've declared official war against the WWF and all the maniacs hanging around. And you're just going to be another victim. But you know something, big boss man? I know I can run that slickster down if I have to run him all night long and snap him like a chicken wing. But for your big fat 357-pound girth, I'm gonna bring along a gas tank, dude. One of the Hulkster's gas tanks full of about 2 gallons of python powder mixed with mineral water from Mars. And as you run out of gas, as you drop to your knees, big boss man, and say, please, Mr. Hogan, don't beat me anymore. I'll stick the tank in your mug. I'll make you take a big sip, dude. That way you'll have to get back up. Your octane levels will be sky high as I clamp the handcuffs to you in the ring post. I'll show you how to use that nightstick. What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?
And if you recall what happened here just a few short weeks ago on Maple Leaf Wrestling when Outlaw Ron Bass wrapped that big whip around the neck of Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Beefcake will be out for revenge on this one. At this time, let's go to Outlaw Ron Bass.
Big Cake, let me just tell you a few things that I learned a long time ago when I was just a little bitty outlaw, when I was just a little hoodlum. You know, I went out and I trapped a lot of animals, and I learned you got them old coyotes in a trap. But there's 2 kinds of individuals that come through. There's the kind that's going to stand there in that trap, and brother, he's going to snap, he's going to bite, and he's going to fight for his life, anything that comes close to him. And then you got them yellow ones that kind of get down around them kneecaps, and they'll gnaw that leg off, and they're gone. They're running. What I want to know is just what kind of animal are you going to be? You're in the big outlaw's trap. Are you going to gnaw that leg off and run, or are you going to stand there and fight? I hope you choose to fight, because, brother, that's what I like.
Well, so much for Outlaw Ron Bass. Now let's go to the ravishing one, Rick Rude.
To love, honor, and obey? Is that what the old lady told you, Jake? Well, I'm afraid she lied. The fact of the matter is, she wanted ravishing Rick Rude, and the fact of the matter is, you knew it. But now what I'm wondering is, what hurts more? To know that your old lady wants the sexiest man alive, or to know that there's nothing you can do about it? Oh, by the way, Jake, I took it upon myself to put your woman's face in a really, really ravishing place.
All right, Billy Redline's promoting the Conquistadors on this show, and they're going to go down to the Rockers. Also going to see Jimmy Powers over Sandy Beach. The Red Rooster scoring a win over Jumping Jim Brunzell. Jake the Snake Roberts over Ravishing Rick Rude. Brutus the Barber Beefcake putting down the Outlaw Ron Bass. Mr. Perfect scoring a pinfall over Sam Houston. And Ask and Ye Shall Receive. Hulk Hogan defeating the Big Boss Man by DQ in Houston and Portland. And then in Edmonton, it's Hulk Hogan over the Big Boss Man by countout after cuffing the Boss Man to the top rope and clotheslining him over, leaving him hanging on the outside. Hulk Hogan making his Edmonton debut successful, even if by a countout. Boss Man down and out, but at least he wasn't pinned here in the big cities. As we roll on to Portland, Maine this time, Civic Center, October the 10th, in front of 3,768 fans. Scott Casey over the Duke of Dorchester, Pete Doherty. Also B. Brian Blair over Iron Mike Sharp. The Blue Blazer defeating Steve Lombardi. King Haku over Coco Beware. Bad News Brown downing Hillbilly Jim. Now there's a match. Talk about polar opposites. My God. Harlem and Mudlick, Kentucky. Plus from there, the Fabulous Rougeaus back to their winning ways over the Hart Foundation. See, they're not being punished. It's the Ultimate Warrior defeating the Honky Tonk Man by DQ, and Randy Savage finally scoring a pinfall victory over Dino Bravo. So the Macho Man spreading it all over the place with upcoming matches against Bad News, Andre, apparently Dino Bravo, and as we'll see soon, King Haku. So Randy Savage, certainly a fighting champion, as we move on to the Boston Gardens, Boston, Massachusetts. Matinee show in front of 5,000 fans, October the 10th, televised on the New England Sports Network, including Rod Trongard, Superstar Billy Graham, and Lord Alfred Hayes. What a trio on commentary here to see B. Brian Blair over Iron Mike Sharp with the Russian leg sweep, Scott Casey putting down Pete Doherty, Blue Blazer over Steve Lombardi. It's King Haku again pinning Hillbilly Jim. Bad News Brown over the WWF Champion Randy Savage by countout. Bad News bailing, hiding behind Elizabeth, shoving her into the Macho Man, enabling himself time to roll back in the ring and beat the Macho Man on a countout. You better believe a rematch will be signed right around the corner here in Boston between these two. Also on the card, Dino Bravo over the Birdman Coco Beware. Ultimate Warrior defending his IC title over the Honky Tonk Man by disqualification. And the Hart Foundation scoring a victory over the Fabulous Rougeaus as they redo the shtick from Maple Leaf Gardens. The referee Brother Love here getting tossed outside, and referee Dave Hebner in to make the 1, 2, 3. And for those curious, yes indeed, post-match Brother Love laying the boots to Mr. Hebner. Got to get his heat back, guys. As we move on, October 14th, Niagara Falls, New York, the Convention Center. Jimmy Powers over Conquistador Uno. Red Rooster over B. Brian Blair. Hercules defeating Dangerous Danny Davis. Aha! So we have to believe that Hercules' babyface turn is coming somewhere around mid-October. Stay tuned, guys. I have a feeling it's coming very soon. Also, Bad News Brown over Ken Patera. Powers of Pain defeating the Bolsheviks. Dino Bravo over Hacksaw Jim Duggan. It's Brutus the Barber Beefcake pinning Outlaw Ron Bass, and WWF Champion Randy Savage picking up a victory in Niagara Falls over the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase inside a steel cage. Up next, back to the West Coast, guys. Got 3 shows to discuss here, including 2 shows October 14th, a matinee in Fresno at the District Fair Grandstand. Also later that evening in Oakland, California at the Coliseum. Plus 2 days later, October 16th, Los Angeles, California and the Sports Arena. Right now, we're going to go off to some promos cut for the Oakland Coliseum show, featuring various matches on all of these cards. We're going to hear from the likes of the Rougeau brothers. Their opponents on these house shows will be the Hart Foundation. We're also going to hear from the likes of the Ultimate Warrior, who continues his feud with the Honky Tonk Man. Jake Roberts going to talk all about Ravishing Rick Rude. And we're going to hear from both sides of the main event, talking about the Hulkster, along with Bobby Heenan and his man, King Haku.
And welcome to the WWF Event Center. World Wrestling Federation action will return Friday night, October 14th at the Oakland Coliseum Arena. And just listen to these great matches that are coming your way. The Birdman, Coco Beware, he will square off against the Big Boss Man, the former prison guard. Jake the Snake Roberts to tangle with Ravishing Rick Rude. Cheryl Roberts will be in Jake's corner. And a return title match for the Intercontinental Championship. The new champion, the Ultimate Warrior, he will face the former title holder, the Honky Tonk Man. And Hulk Hogan, the Hulkster, to meet the king of the World Wrestling Federation, King Haku. And there is more. This one is getting more interesting by the moment. The Hart Foundation, they will face the Fabulous Rougeau brothers. They are standing by with their new manager.
Eat your heart out, Hart Foundation, because look who I've just signed, the Fabulous Rougeau brothers! I mean, isn't this great? Isn't it, Raymond? Now, don't forget, guys, there's one thing we have to point out, that Jimmy Hart still has a contract with you guys. That's right, guys, and I'm going to give you guys a bonus off of their money for each match you win. All right. You know, we've been known to be fabulous, but now we even have a fabulous heart.
We will see what the Hart Foundation thinks about that situation when they face one another October 14th. Ravishing Rick Rude, he will face the Snake.
When it begun, man, it was a simple little fever, man. Something you done, something I thought you should pay for, but now it's gotten completely out of hand. Don't you agree? I mean, you think about it. Heenan's been running his mouth. Jesse the Body Ventura wants to say something, and now you want to wear some fancy Dan tights, man, with my wife's picture on it? Come on, give me a break. What am I supposed to do? Sit on my hands, man, and behave? I've never behaved in my life. I've always been in trouble, man. Doing what I felt was right. And this is the first time in my life it seems like everybody else is agreeing with me. Isn't that strange, Rick Rude? Isn't that strange? It's strange for me to think about. On the right course, me? No, I don't think so. And I'm going to show you just how different I can be, my man. The wife's at ringside. If you wear the tights, I'm taking them off, and the DDT is going to happen.
Jake the Snake Roberts. Cheryl will be by his side for this one when he takes on Ravishing Rick Rude at the Oakland Coliseum Arena, Friday night, October 14th. We are back. The Hulkster, Hulk Hogan. He will be at the Oakland Coliseum Arena, Friday night, October 14th, to face the king of the World Wrestling Federation, King Haku. But is he intimidated? He does not believe that any kingdom that King Haku represents is bigger than Hulkamania. He is going to be at the Oakland Coliseum Arena Friday night, October 14th, and he will begin his march back to the championship right here.
Ha-sha, 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 ha-sha. Oh, yeah, brothers. I got the weight of Hulkamania. It feels like the weight of the world on my shoulders, brother. But I can feel the pulse of the little Hulksters. It still lives, man. They still train. They still say their prayers. They still eat their vitamins, brother. And Haku, man, the largest arms in the world of the Hulkster are coming after you, brother. You know, you're going to wear that crown. Man, the one that you were self-anointed by the WWF Heenan family. I'm gonna have something on too, brother. I'm gonna have the Hulk Hogan war bonnet on. Just like all my Toronto Hulkamaniacs know, if a manager such as Bobby the Weasel Heenan happens to make a wrong, misguided move, the mystical fist will come to life. The diamond-studded paved star ring will circle the arena 110 times as it knocks Bobby Heenan's lights out. And then, King, it's gonna be you and me, brother. I don't know what king of what jungle you are, but you're definitely not the king of the WWF. I'm the only king around here, brother. Before, now, and in the future, I've never been beat. I've never been pinned to the mat. And Hulkamania will live forever. But remember one thing, Haku, guided by Bobby the Weasel Heenan. Sometimes when you go hunting for big game in the jungle, sometimes as you cross that great territorial divide, man, into Canada, the hunted becomes the hunter, or the hunter becomes the hunted. And in this case, when you come after me and all my Hulkamaniacs, we're going to end up hunting you down.
The Hulkster, not only with a message for King Haku, but a warning to all his future opponents right here in the World Wrestling Federation. There is only one Hulk Hogan, and he will be at the Oakland Coliseum Arena Friday night, October 14th. Welcome back. A touch of royalty at the Oakland Coliseum Arena Friday night, October 14th. The Hulkster, he will be there, Hulk Hogan, to face the king of the World Wrestling Federation, King Haku. Right now, the king is standing by with his manager, Bobby Heenan.
Where have you been, Hogan, you miserable slime? You've been hiding. You couldn't take it when you were defeated by Andre the Giant, so you vanished. Let me introduce you to a new member of the family, King Haku.
Hulkamania is dead. Long live the king.
Can you handle that, Hogan? Are you ready for this? You're going to be down on your hands and knees, bowing and begging to King Haku. I promise you.
The King Haku, to face Hulk Hogan at the Oakland Coliseum Arena. In other action, for the Intercontinental Championship, a return bout, the Honky Tonk Man to face the new champion, the Ultimate Warrior.
It's a mad, mad world. It's a mad, mad world when you take somebody like the Ultimate Warrior and you just let him go and you unleash him, and the man has no control. The man can't speak for himself. I have to stand in front of the camera and let the Warriors fill me with the energy that it takes to deal with a molehill like you, Honky Tonk Man. But no more, Honky Tonk Man, because this belt stays where the belt belongs. I'm the carrier, but all the little warriors that come to the arenas with the paint on thick like mine, they own it, Honky Tonk Man. And if you can jump on this back and take us all down, then you can have it.
The new Intercontinental Champion, the Ultimate Warrior, he has no intention of giving up that title to the Honky Tonk Man.
All right, so promos there from Oakland, but it works for all of these house shows, including the Los Angeles Coliseum, October 16th, televised on the Z channel. Included Rod Trongard and Superstar Graham on commentary. They don't even have Lord Alfred here to save him this time. And the action going to see Paul Roma over Steve Lombardi, the Blue Blazer, down Jose Estrada, the Warrior, continuing to defeat the Honky Tonk Man by DQ. You'd think he'd get wise to this by now. Look out for Jimmy Hart, plus Mr. Perfect defeating Jumping Jim Brunzell. Hulk Hogan coming to town, scoring a win with the leg drop over King Haku, plus the Big Boss Man over Koko Beware, and the Hart Foundation scoring victories over the Fabulous Rougeaus by disqualification. Match is reportedly going about 20 minutes before the Hart Foundation going for their finisher, the Heart Attack, but the Rougeaus intentionally pulling the referee in the way of the move, knocking the referee down, forcing a second one to come out and call for the DQ. And we finish every night with Jake the Snake Roberts with lovely wife Cheryl by his side, the Snake Man, scoring victories over Rick Rude, Rude eating the slap from Cheryl right into a schoolboy roll-up from the Snake, picking up victories in all three towns. Also, similar cards, October the 15th and 17th in between in Tacoma, Washington at the Tacoma Dome in front of 10,300. Also in Vancouver on the 17th at P&E Coliseum. Just a few alterations on those cards. King Haku scoring wins over Koko Beware on those shows. Also, it's the Rougeaus picking up pinfall victories over the Hart Foundation. And with Haku wrestling Koko, that leaves Hogan open to score wins over the Big Boss Man by count out there in Tacoma and Vancouver. As we continue on, October the 15th, coming to Landover, Maryland at the Cap Center in front of just 2,800 fans. Right now, we're going to hear from several of the talents involved in the show, including the main event WWF Champion, the Macho Man Randy Savage, and his challenger, Bad News Brown. We're also going to hear from the likes of Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He's got a matchup coming with Dino Bravo. Brutus the Barber Beefcake here, taking on the Outlaw Ron Bass, and the $1 Million Man going to talk about his match with Ken Patera.
And welcome to the WWF Event Center. I'm Sean Mooney. Saturday, October 15th at the Capitol Center, and it all begins at 1:30. Just listen to the action that is going to take place. Ken Patera, the former Olympian, he will face the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. The Powers of Pain to face the Russian Bolsheviks, but in singles competition, the Barbarian to meet Nikolai Volkov, the Warlord to take on Boris Zukov. Hacksaw Jim Duggan to face Canadian strongman Dino Bravo. In a return bout, Brutus the Barber Beefcake to face the Outlaw Ron Bass, that one far from over. And for the World Wrestling Federation Championship, the Macho Man Randy Savage, he will have a lot to say about this one later. But right now, let's hear from his opponent, the undefeated Bad News Brown.
Finally, Macho Man. Finally, you come from behind Elizabeth's skirts, or from behind her apron, where you've been hiding ever since I arrived at the WWF. You had plenty of time to check me out. And what you saw, you didn't like, did you? That's right. But finally, I must thank your fans because they have embarrassed you into coming out and putting that title up. Well, you better have it polished off and shine because it won't belong to you no more.
Can the streak remain intact? Bad News Brown to face the Macho Man Randy Savage for the World Wrestling Federation Championship. Dino Bravo to meet Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh, Dino Bravo, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Everybody in the USA can have their own say. But Hacksaw Jim Duggan and a lot of folks out there are sick and tired of Frenchie Martin parading around with that USA is not okay sign. That's why I'm bringing this 2x4. No, I'm not bringing that one. I'm going to bring this one. My A1 #1 hardball 2x4. So when I come on down to the ring, Frenchie Martin, you can take that sign and, well, you take it anyway. And Dino Bravo, when they ring the bell, don't expect no weightlifting. Don't expect no wrestling. All you're going to get is a fight, tough guy.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan, a true American, to face Canadian Dino Bravo at the Capitol Center October 15th. And we are back. It will be an awesome autumn afternoon. Saturday, October 15th at the Capitol Center. What a matchup we have taking place right here between Hacksaw Jim Duggan, a real American. He will take on Canadian strongman Dino Bravo. A very unique situation when it comes right down to it. The United States facing Canada. Well, the Canadian strongman Dino Bravo is standing by right now with his manager, Frenchie Martin.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the portrait of the perfect American. Then you wonder why I think that USA stinks. Well, Duggan, you're a big bully, but you need a 2x4 to put your opponents down. Well, when you face the world's strongest man, Duggan, I don't need a 2x4. All I need is my muscle power, Duggan. You want a piece of me, Duggan? Well, come and Duggan, because I'm waiting for you, and I guarantee you, USA is going to go down with you, Duggan.
Well, Canadian strongman Dino Bravo may be in for a big surprise when he faces Hacksaw Jim Duggan Saturday afternoon, October 15th. In other action, in a return bout, you have been waiting for this one. The Outlaw Ron Bass to meet Brutus, the Barber Beefcake.
I see that, being the big fat outlaw that you are, Ron Bass, that you did learn something from those Indians. You learned how to attack somebody from behind, the sneak attack. I've learned a few things down this road, and they are how to use the tools of my trade. Because I am the barber, son, and if you've not been keeping up on current events, I guess you haven't been. What I do real well, and that's make people like you real beautiful, or should we say, beefcake style, maybe 8-ball, cue ball looking. Ron Bass, I'm coming for you, man. You!
Brutus the Barber Beefcake. It all began when he chopped up Miss Betsy and that hat of the outlaw Ron Bass. It continued when the outlaw retaliated with his spurs, Bo and Bart Maverick. Now that the barber has recovered from his wounds, he is more than ready to face the outlaw Ron Bass in this return bout. Hello, Washington, D.C. This is your Washington Report, right here on WTTG Fox 5. Get ready for an awesome autumn afternoon. It will take place October 15th at the Capitol Center. One of the great matches you will not want to miss. It will feature Ken Patera, the former Olympian. He will face the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Ken Patera, the great Olympian. Let me tell you something, Ken Patera. The Olympics were over for you a long time ago. And even though I must admire you for what you accomplished, the truth is, the very simple truth is, you are the classic example of a man with an overdeveloped body and an underdeveloped brain. The classic musclehead. And when you climb in the ring with the $1 Million Man, brother, you are simply outclassed.
The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, to meet Ken Patera October 15th. Undefeated Bad News Brown to meet the champion, the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Bad News Brown, yeah. Legend. Oh, mine, yeah. Uh-huh. That ain't good enough. No, you gotta be something special. Yeah. Just to get a title shot. Now you got the title shot. Now I'm telling you what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen is you're gonna feel the momentum of something that you have never felt before. And I'm talking about Macho Madness, yeah. Just a little bit of a secret, yeah. Just a little bit of a secret, Elizabeth, yeah. Am I ready for Bad News Brown, huh? Oh, yeah! I'm ready for you. And this is the World Wrestling Federation Championship belt. This is what you're going after, but you're not gonna get it. I'm gonna send you back to the streets of Harlem. And that's bad news, yeah.
Undefeated or not, the champion will not be intimidated. They will face one another October 15th.
All right, guys, the results look like this in Landover. It's Jimmy Powers over the Conquistador, Terry Taylor, or the Red Rooster, over B. Brian Blair, Hercules, defeating Dangerous Danny Davis by submission. Ted DiBiase over Ken Patera. That was an unusual matchup. Barbarian going solo here with the Warlord out for a few days. Barbarian scoring victory over Boris Zukov. It's Dino Bravo defeating Hacksaw Duggan by DQ. Brutus Beefcake over the Outlaw Ron Bass. And Bad News Brown again with a win over the WWF Champion Randy Savage on a countout. Likely to bring this one back to Landover as well. As we continue on October 16th, Providence, Rhode Island at the Civic Center. It's our annual King of the Ring tournament. Yes, guys, they were doing that all the way back to 1985, but we wouldn't see one on TV until 93. And right here, 6,700 fans out here to the King of the Ring in Providence to see the opening round go like this. Ken Patera over Nikolai Volkov. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase defeating Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Hercules battling Bad News Brown to a double countout. WWF Champion Randy Savage involved in this one, picking up a victory over Virgil, the Bodyguard, with a flying elbow in the first round. Outlaw Ron Bass downing the Barbarian by disqualification. Bass trying to use Miss Betsy, the Barbarian getting hold of Betsy instead, choking out the Outlaw, drawing the disqualification. Ron Bass advancing into the next round. Also, rocker Shawn Michaels over Dangerous Danny Davis. The Red Rooster putting away rocker Marty Jannetty. How would you like to say that? I lost to the Red Rooster. Plus, Iron Mike Sharp in here subbing for the Warlord. It's Mike Sharp over Boris Zukov. What a matchup. And in non-tournament action, Hacksaw Jim Duggan picking up a victory over Dino Bravo in a flag match. As we move on to the quarterfinals, it's the Outlaw Ron Bass defeating rocker Shawn Michaels. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase over Ken Patera. The Red Rooster scoring a win over Iron Mike Sharp. And the Macho Man Randy Savage receiving a bye thanks to the double elimination of Bad News Brown and the Mighty Hercules in round number 1. So that takes us to the semifinals, guys, where we will see WWF Champion Randy Savage pin the Red Rooster with another flying elbow drop. And in the Battle of the Heels, or so it would seem, the $1 Million Man scoring a win over the Outlaw Ron Bass by forfeit when DiBiase paid Bass off to feign an injury, and the Outlaw unable to compete. The $1 Million Man advancing straight to the finals. And so here we are, a very familiar sight, DiBiase versus the Macho Man in the finals of a tournament. This time the King of the Ring and the $1 Million Man going to exact a little revenge, defeating Randy Savage by countout. Match only goes about 6 minutes. Virgil getting involved, distracting the Macho Man, giving DiBiase enough time to get back in the ring and pick up the countout victory. And what a way to win the King of the Ring. Talk about a fart in church. Had this aired on pay-per-view. Post-match, it was the Mighty Hercules coming out to chase DiBiase and Virgil away from ringside. But somewhere, maybe out there, there is a trophy with $1 Million Man's name attached as King of the Ring 1988. As we move on to Utica, New York, Memorial Auditorium, October 17th. Going to see Bad News over Ken Patera, Hercules defeat Iron Mike Sharp, Hacksaw Duggan over Dino Bravo, Brutus the Barber Beefcake down the Outlaw Ron Bass by DQ. It's the Barbarian going solo over Boris Zukov, the Rockers scoring a victory over Terry Taylor and Danny Davis, and WWF Champion Randy Savage again defeating Ted DiBiase inside a steel cage in Utica. So we move on, finally getting into the 20s here. October 21st, Auburn Hills, Michigan at the Palace. It's the Blue Blazer over Steve Lombardi, the Rockers defeating the Conquistadors, Warrior over Honky Tonk by DQ, the $1 Million Man picking up a win over Hercules. So much for that push. Dino Bravo downing Jim Duggan by a countout, the Fabulous Rougeaus over the Hart Foundation, and WWF Champion Randy Savage putting away King Haku. But we're not done yet with the 21st also. October 21, 6,000 fans to St. Paul, Minnesota, and the Civic Center going to see the Red Rooster over Scott Casey, Sam Houston defeat Iron Mike Sharp, Big Boss Man over Coco Beware, the Warlord back in action, going to see the Powers of Pain over the Bolsheviks, Jumping Jim Brunzell defeat Dangerous Danny Davis, Hulk Hogan pinning Bad News Brown, Brutus the Barber Beefcake over Outlaw Ron Bass, Mr. Perfect putting away Ken Patera. That would have been another interesting one. And also Jake the Snake Roberts again with a roll-up thanks to an assist from Cheryl Roberts, the Snake Man, going over on Ravishing Rick. As we continue on October 22nd, a matinee show in Dayton, Ohio at the old Hera Arena. It's the Rockers over the Conquistadors, Blue Blazer defeating Steve Lombardi, the Ultimate Warrior defeating the Honky Tonk Man by DQ, Randy Savage defending his title over King Haku. Also on the card, Hercules versus DiBiase, Duggan versus Dino Bravo, and the Hart Foundation versus the Fabulous Rougeaus. I don't have results for those three matches, but that's kind of a fun card there in Dayton. The undercard, the Rockers, the Blue Blazer, and then pretty much a stacked card from there on down. As we continue on to Green Bay, Wisconsin at the Brown County Arena. Another matinee show, October 22nd. Stacked show from top to bottom. Something like 9 matches on the card. Red Rooster versus Scott Casey, Danny Davis and Jim Brunzell, Sam Houston and Iron Mike Sharp. Okay, maybe not a stacked card, but a lot of matches. Mr. Perfect over Ken Patera, the Big Boss Man putting away Coco Beware. It's Brutus Beefcake over the Outlaw Ron Bass. Powers of Pain picking up a victory over the Bolsheviks. It's Jake Roberts with Cheryl in his corner over Ravishing Rick Rude, and Hulk Hogan downing Bad News Brown one more time. As we continue on, remember the return. They promoted it, Randy Savage versus Dino Bravo, Maple Leaf Gardens, October 23rd. We're going to look at the card right now here at the Gardens. The Rockers over the Conquistadors. Mr. Perfect defeating Scott Casey. Sam Houston going down to Dangerous Danny Davis. It's kind of hard to figure out who's getting de-pushed more, Houston or Davis here. Red Rooster scoring a win over Paul Roma. Big Boss Man over Ken Patera. The $1 Million Man defeating Hacksaw Jim Duggan on a countout. It's Brutus the Barber Beefcake pinning Outlaw Ron Bass. And in the rematch, it's the WWF Champion Randy Savage scoring a pinfall victory over Dino Bravo. Unfortunately, I don't believe this card ever made it to air. That would have been fun to add to the repertoire of matches involving the Macho Man, a bout with Dino Bravo where he scores the victory. As we continue on, also October 23rd, down in Atlanta, Georgia at the Omni. Where else but the Omni? 5,200 fans out to see the Blue Blazer over Steve Lombardi, the Rougeaus defeat the Hart Foundation. It's Warrior and Honky Tonk Man. No, not a disqualification, but rather a double count out here. Still 4 minutes, though, at the Omni, plus Hercules over King Haku, Hulk Hogan, and Andre the Giant, the headline here. Got to do that here in Atlanta. Not the first time these guys have went at it down here at the Omni. Hogan defeating Andre by disqualification. Also on the card, Barbarian back to one-on-one here over Boris Zukov. Bad News Brown putting down Coco Beware. And Jake the Snake Roberts pinning Ravishing Rick Rude. Looks like we've got a show October 24th in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Hershey Park Arena. Just 2,100 fans here. Wow, 2,100 fans for a show with Hulk Hogan on the card and the Warrior. Wow. Going to see results here. The Red Rooster battling Sam Houston to a draw. The Barbarian over Boris Zukov. Bad News Brown pins Ken Patera. It's Brutus Beefcake over Outlaw Ron Bass. Mr. Perfect defeating Scott Casey. Warrior back to defeating Honky Tonk by DQ. And Hulk Hogan pinning King Haku in Hershey, PA. as we continue on off to the Garden, as in Madison Square, New York City, New York. 12,500 fans here, as it is televised on the MSG network, included Rod Trongard, Superstar Graham, and Lord Alfred Hayes. The trifecta is back, guys. On commentary, off to the ring for Paul Roma over Dangerous Danny Davis. Missile dropkick to the back of Danny's head there. Ugh, not pretty. Big Boss Man picking up a victory over Coco Beware with the Boss Man Slam. Demolition scoring a win over the number one contenders here in New York. Talking about the Rockers, they won a matchup last month, if you guys recall, that earned them this title shot here this time around in a really fun match. It really started to get going, really flowing. I enjoyed it. And then the Demolition scoring the win over the Rockers. Match goes about 13 minutes. It looked like the Rockers may have Demolition rocking and reeling, but it was Axe catching Jannetty with a clothesline from the apron, taking Marty down, and the Demolition retaining their titles there at MSG. Also on the card, the Mighty Hercules scoring a full Nelson submission win over the Bodyguard Virgil. Now, post-match, Hercules refusing to release the hold. DiBiase trying to break it up, save his bodyguard. That's unusual. DiBiase even grabbing the chain of the Mighty Hercules, trying to choke Herc out with his own chain. To no avail, Hercules quickly gaining the advantage of the chain, running the heels off from the ring as the Mighty One looked dominant here. Also on the card, it was Blue Blazer over Steve Lombardi in Owen Hart's MSG debut there. Plus the WWF Champion Randy Savage back in town to score a victory over Andre the Giant, this time by disqualification. Now, there were a lot of stipulations attached to this rematch. Remember last time out, we got the count out. This time, it was stated that if either manager left their respective corner, their wrestler would be disqualified. But also, stipulations stated that if the Macho Man, Randy Savage, had been counted out, he would lose the title. Needless to say, it was Randy Savage picking up the DQ victory here after interference from one Bobby the Brain Heenan. As the WWF program goes into intermission, we go backstage to Sean Mooney, who's going to interview the likes of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. We're going to hear from Hacksaw Jim Duggan about his match coming up with Dino Bravo. Plus, the Fabulous Rougeaus are here to talk about the Hart Foundation. We'll even hear from Ravishing Rick Rude and Bobby the Brain Heenan coming out of that Andre match and heading into Rude's match with the Snake Man.
Well, joining me now in the interview area is the $1 Million Man and the Bodyguard Virgil. Now, the trouble began when you purchased the Mighty Hercules from Bobby Heenan.
Hercules, you are my slave. Do you understand that? Slave. S-L-A-V-E. Well, obviously you don't understand, Hercules, but before this is all over, you can bet your bottom dollar that you will understand. You had the advantage tonight. Virgil's a bodyguard, a great bodyguard. He's not a wrestler. But I am a wrestler, Hercules. And oh yeah, you're big, you're powerful, you're a strong man. But the one part of your body that you have failed to develop is a brain. If you had a brain, you'd be listening to me already. But I'm smarter than you. I'm smarter than every wrestler in the World Wrestling Federation. And when it's all over, Hercules, you won't be so hard-headed. As a matter of fact, that head of yours is going to be as soft as a grape. When you want something done right, you do it yourself. And I've gone through everybody in the World Wrestling Federation, and I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've said it time and time again. I always get what I want, especially when it's already bought and paid for. You belong to me. And before it's all over, there'll be no doubt in your mind or anybody else's.
Well, about to join me here in the locker room area, a man who is yet to face Canadian strongman Dino Bravo. He is Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Son, excuse me for stomping on in here, but I got a lot of things to say. You know, I can understand a man being proud of his country. That's something admirable in people. But another thing is when you come into a man's country and start talking bad about it. And that's what Dino's Bravo's doing. He's coming down here to America. He's got Frenchie Martin waving that flag, and he's always got something bad to say about it. Besides, Dino Bravo, he's a big, strong man. He can push all kinds of iron around. But Bravo, understand one thing. Weights don't fight back. Hacksaw Jim Duggan does. So when you come on down to that ring, he'll have Frenchie Martin whispering in his ear. Tell him what a big, strong man he is. Well, Bravo, just look over into that corner over there, and you're going to see Hacksaw Jim Duggan staring back at you. And when they ring the bell, baby, It's not going to be the junior varsity out there. It's going to be Hacksaw Jim Duggan, 6'3", 285 pounds, and I'll be looking for you. And Frenchie Martin, if you stick your nose in my business, understand one thing. Wherever Hacksaw Jim Duggan goes, my 2x4 is not far behind, and you can ask anybody in the WWF. I'm not shy about using it. So, Bravo, keep your eyes open. Tough guy, and Frenchie Martin, stay out of my way.
Well, looks as though Hacksaw Jim Duggan plans to give Dino Bravo a little lesson in American patriotism. Well, joining me now here in the interview area are the Fabulous Rougeau brothers, Jacques and Raymond, as they anticipate their encounter with the Hart Foundation, Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Now, everyone knows there is no love lost between you two tag teams, and I think many believe much of that trouble is caused by your now manager, Jimmy Hart.
Oh, no. Jimmy Hart doesn't speak bad about anybody, especially not the Hart Foundation, since he still owns 50% of the contract, which he gives to us split equally, 25-25 to my brother and I.
Oh, wait, you're telling me that you are getting a percentage of the Hart Foundation, no matter if they win or lose?
He wants them to win, because the more they win, the more money we make.
That's except when they're wrestling us. But we always wish good luck to the Hart Foundation because we want them to last a long, long time so those checks keep coming in over here, Sean. You know what we mean?
You know, Sean, there's one thing, I don't mean to cut you off. There's one thing we have to give credit is to all those fans out there. You know, if we came as far as we did right now, it's because of their support. And we guarantee you the Fabulous Rougeau brothers are not going to let you down.
Well, I have to say that Jimmy Hart is very conspicuous by his absence tonight.
Well, you know, the reason for that, you're very curious. I mean, I must admit.
No, that's what
but we want these people to know why Jimmy isn't here right now. He's out looking at some real estate for us. We're thinking of maybe moving into around the New York area. I mean, you should have seen the reception we had tonight. People were outside cheering for us. They were screaming, "Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous," everywhere. They had little American flags everywhere.
They were screaming so much a building fell down not far from here tonight.
Well, that encounter is yet to come. The Fabulous Rougeau brothers to face the Hart Foundation. Well, joining me now are Ravishing Rick Rude and his manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Bobby feeling a few effects from an encounter with the Macho Man Randy Savage.
You take that mic and do something with it.
Well, Rick Rude, tonight you have a very interesting matchup here with Jake the Snake Roberts. A very interesting stipulation to this one.
You know, there's two stipulations, little man. The first one is it's got to end with either the Rude Awakening or the DDT. The second stipulation that you don't know about is to the winner goes the spoils. Mrs. Roberts will be at ringside.
What do you mean, to the winner? Are you trying to tell me that you will take Cheryl
What
Roberts?
I'm telling you, idiot, is I'm going to put Jake Roberts down with the Rude Awakening, and then I'm going to take Cheryl Roberts for a night out on the town.
What if she's not exactly willing?
She's willing. She is willing, little man. If you saw the look in her eye, you'd know that.
You know, Rick, she wouldn't be here if she wasn't willing. You made that statement. When he tore those tights off you, you never saw her until that day. Now she shows her kisser every place we're at. Fine, Mrs. Roberts. Fine, Mrs. Snake. Fine, bimbo. Welcome to the club. Your old man's going out with a snake tonight, and he's going out with a dog.
Well, that encounter yet to come. Jake the Snake Roberts to face Ravishing Rick Rude. It's the DDT versus the Rude Awakening, and Cheryl Roberts, Jake's wife, to be in his corner. Right now, it's almost time for the action to continue. Let's go to ringside.
All right, so DiBiase and Virgil there talking about Hercules. Of course, the post-match altercation, DiBiase believes that he has purchased the Mighty One. We'll have to see how that plays out on upcoming TV. We also hear from Jim Duggan and his matchup with Dino Bravo. The Rougeaus continue to have their issues with the Hart Foundation, and Ravishing Rick Rude still has Jake Roberts here later in the night saying that he's going to beat the Snake Man and take Cheryl Roberts out after the show, and Bobby Heenan still selling from being attacked by Randy Savage in the match prior. As we go back to the ring, it is Dino Bravo over Hacksaw Duggan by a countout, thanks to a distraction from Frenchie Martin. Now the 2x4 going to come into play as well there. Also on the card, the Hart Foundation battling the Fabulous Rougeau brothers to a time limit draw. Now the match goes about 20 minutes when Jacques Rougeau himself goes and rings the bell to prevent Brother Raymond from taking the heart attack maneuver. Very clever. But the referee, believing the time had expired, realized that it had not. The hearts had been ripped off, and thus Jim Neidhart on the microphone asking for 5 more minutes, and the Rougeaus teasing like they were going to accept that challenge, but The joke was on the Rougeaus, as Howard Finkel come to learn there were actually 3 minutes left in the time limit, thus the match was still active. It was still ongoing, and so the Rougeaus forced to return to the ring to continue the matchup, which goes at least 23 minutes, maybe closer to 25 if you count the downtime in between. But the Rougeaus and Harts basically essentially battling to a time limit draw somewhere around the 23-minute mark, but a fun match. Anytime you get those two teams in the ring and give them 20 minutes, you're guaranteed something fun. Also, in the final match of the night here at the Garden, it's the battle of the DDT versus the Rude Awakening. The only way to win the match is to land your finisher and secure a pinfall. Gonna see Jake the Snake Roberts with wife Cheryl in his corner, pin Ravishing Rick Rude with what else but, of course, the DDT. Match goes about 12 and a half minutes, and then post-match, it's a trifecta of humiliation here. As first Rude eating the DDT, then he gets slapped by Cheryl Roberts after the matchup. If that wasn't enough, you best believe old Damien comes out late atop the Ravishing One as well, sending the fans home happy as we conclude the feud between Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts here in some of the larger towns. We're going to move on to a new feud for the Snake Man, and before too long, a new feud for Ravishing Rick as well. As we continue on to Baltimore, Maryland, the old Baltimore Arena, October 25th, as part of a Superstars of Wrestling and Saturday night's main event taping, as we're going to hear interviews right now from the Demolition about their upcoming match at Saturday night's main event against the Hart Foundation. We're also going to hear from the likes of Bobby Heenan and Haku on Haku's opponent at the big event, talking about Hulk Hogan. Plus, we'll hear the Hulkster's rebuttal to the Heenan family member and Rick Rude discussing his upcoming match with Jake Roberts right there on nationally broadcasted television against Jake the Snake Roberts. And from there, not done yet. Also going to hear from the Macho Man Randy Savage, his opponent upcoming at Saturday night's main event, one Andre the Giant.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Mooney here at the World Wrestling Federation Event Center. It is going to happen right here in Baltimore, Tuesday night, October 25th, at the Baltimore Arena. World Wrestling Federation action coming your way. And let's review this spectacular lineup. Jake the Snake Roberts. He will face Ravishing Rick Rude. Cheryl Roberts. She will be in Jake's corner. The Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, right here in Baltimore to meet King Haku. The Macho Man, Randy Savage, putting it on the line. The World Wrestling Federation Championship against Andre the Giant. And a match for the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championship. The Hart Foundation, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Bret the Hitman Hart. They have a shot at the title. They will take on Axe and Smash of Demolition. Now, as you know, what happened at SummerSlam 88? Jimmy Hart, the advisor to Demolition. Well, that situation still exists. Axe and Smash of Demolition are standing by with Mr. Fuji.
Let me tell you, Hart Foundation, you have a lot of dissension in your camp, a lot of trouble. But in Master Fuji camp, everybody is happy.
That's right, and you know why we're happy. Because Master Fuji makes us happy. He gives us the match, just like that one with you. And he's trained us, and he's trained us to beat your brains out, kick your teeth at.
It was easy to get up for this match. Easy, because we can remember when we wanted an opportunity to go for your belts. Now we're the champions. We're going to stay the champions, but in the middle of the battle, we're going to teach you a few things. We're going to show you why you were afraid of us before.
Axe and Smash of Demolition defending their title here in Baltimore, October 25th. The Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, right here. We'll hear from him later in the hour, but right now let's hear from King Haku.
Have you been wearing a disguise? Have you been wearing a mask? Or just a paper sack over that ugly face of yours? Because you've been hiding from the Bobby Heenan family. Ted DiBiase, Andre the Giant, we know it. Hogan, you're going to look pretty bad when this thing's over. Right, King Haku?
Exactly. Hogan, when you're done with the king, with the new king, nobody will recognize you.
See, Hogan, you won't have to hide that face. It's going to be smashed up pretty bad.
King Haku, he will face none other than the Hulkster right here at the Baltimore Arena, Tuesday night, October 25th. Tuesday night, October 25th at the Baltimore Arena. 2 World Wrestling Federation championships on the line, and the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, he is back. And he does not plan to stop until he is once again the champion of the World Wrestling Federation. Well, he will face King Haku, the king here in the World Wrestling Federation. The Hulkster is not intimidated, and he has a few things to say, as promised, about this upcoming encounter. He is standing by right now with comments.
You know something, Bobby the Weasel? You're starting to run out of players, brother. I've handled the Hercules, the Bundys, the Studs, the Andre the Giants, man, the Harley Races. Now, You get enough nerve to stick King Haku up in my face. You know, he didn't work for this position, Hulkamaniacs. He didn't go from state-to-state man campaigning to become the king. He was anointed, bonked on the head by Bobby the Weasel Heenan as the king of wrestling. Well, that's cool, you know. With this psychopath Jack Tunney running things around here, the way he looks at things, Haku may be right on the top of the ladder for a chance at the Macho Man. I'm the one that wants the shot for the WWF Championship, man. That's why I'm here, bottom line. And as far as you go, Haku, managed by Bobby the Weasel Heenan, that crown is a nice little prop, brother. A prop, a stepping stone on the way to being a #1 contender. And you know something? The way you make all those dudes bow at your feet on TV, Haku, it makes me sick, man. When I get the pythons of 24-inch shotguns pumped up, I'm going to crank them around your neck, brother. And as you drop your knees and say, please, Mr. Hogan, don't beat me anymore. I'm going to show you who the king of professional wrestling is. It's going to be one more notch up to where I want to be, brother. And you will bow at the Hulkster's feet in servitude.
The Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, back here in Baltimore to face King Haku. What a matchup that is going to be, but the Hulkster feels this is only the beginning. He is a changed man, and he will start right here in Baltimore, making his way back to the World Wrestling Federation Championship. Welcome back. What a night it will be. Tuesday evening, October 25th at the Baltimore Arena. Now, I know all you World Wrestling Federation fans right here in Baltimore have made plans to see this matchup. Jake the Snake Roberts, he recently provided us with a rather personal look into the life of Ravishing Rick Rude. The Ravishing One is standing by.
What am I supposed to do, Roberts? How am I supposed to feel? You come from behind, you tear off my tights on national television. We met before, your woman was nowhere to be seen. You pulled my tights off. Now she comes to ringside. How do you feel, Jake? How's your woman doing?
Well, after that recent showing, I'm surprised to see Ravishing Rick Rude brimming with confidence. Well, the World Wrestling Federation champion is always brimming with confidence. He's the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Andre the Giant, 7'5" tall, the 8th wonder of the world. Biggest test for the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Yeah, and I remember you, man, choking me down. Yeah. Well, Virgil held Elizabeth and made her watch Macho Madness doing nothing. Yeah. But you, the 8th wonder of the world, 7'5" Andre the Giant, big nasty giant. Test, yeah, for the World Wrestling Federation champion. And I am going to step up, and I am going to answer the challenge, and I am going to bring it right to you. Madness style, yeah. All the eyes of Macho Madness get behind the Macho Man Randy Savage now, because I need you. I'm going to get you, Andre the Giant.
All right, so some fun localized promos there in Baltimore, all for the big Saturday night's main event coming up very soon to air soon here on the Grenade, so stay tuned for that. Also taped on this set of tapings, November 1st for primetime couple of matches, including the Blue Blazer over Boris Zukov with Nikolai Volkov in his corner, and Greg the Hammer Valentine defeating Tommy Angel. Oh, that was Johnny Angel. Anywho, figure 4, shin guard assisted figure 4. Going to end that one for the Hammer, just 4.5 minutes. Dark match, also going to see the WWF champion Randy Savage over Andre the Giant by DQ, thanks to interference from one Bobby the Brain Heenan. And if that wasn't all, I should also mention interviews beginning to be taped and aired for the upcoming Survivor Series, including a 5-man team, the likes of Jake Roberts, Jim Duggan, Tito Santana, Ken Patera, and B. Brian Blair, still here and on these TV tapings, as he was slated to be part of that team at Survivor Series. As we continue on to our next Wrestling Challenge taping, Salisbury, Maryland at the Wacomico Youth and Civic Center, October 26th. On the Challenge tapings, several matches also taped for Primetime Wrestling, including November 1st, Honky Tonk Man over John Ziegler with the Shake, Rattle, and Roll, taped for All-American Young Stallions over Iron Mike Sharp and Steve Lombardi to air November 13th, All-American Wrestling. Also taped Primetime November 15th, Mr. Perfect over Sam Houston with the Perfect Plex. Then from there to air November 26th on Spotlight, Ravishing Rick Rude over Ken Patera. Rude Awakening putting Patera down there. And we're still not done. A matchup taped that will not air until August the 28th, 1989. Going to see the WWF Tag Team Champions Demolition defeat the Bolsheviks. This is the battle of the heels that I've been talking about. I've been wanting to see the Demolition put down the Bolsheviks, and it happens right here. Not going to air for another 9 months on television, as by then the demo is going to be treated as baby faces. So you have to imagine Mr. Fuji not out here for this one, but it is the decapitation, putting Boris Zukov away. The demos go over, retaining the titles. And then from there, some dark matches. Sees the Warrior over Honky Tonk Man, Jake Roberts defeat Ravishing Rick Rude, and Randy Savage battle Andre the Giant to a double countout. All right, guys, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel here as we go on. 4 shows here, identical shows here, October 27th through the 30th. Phoenix, Arizona, the State Fair Coliseum. Reno, Nevada at the Lawler Event Center. Las Vegas, Nevada at the Thomas and Mack Center. Only 3,000 fans there in Las Vegas, October 29th. And October 30th, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, at the old Sioux Falls Arena. Going to see Scott Casey over Jose Estrada. Blue Blazer defeat Barry Horowitz. It's Brutus Beefcake defeating Ron Bass. Of course, Bass getting his heat back post-match, attacking the Barber. Ladies champion back here in the States. It hasn't been reported yet on TV, so it hasn't happened yet, guys. Talking about Sensational Sherry, still used as the ladies champion here, even though we know she's already lost it to Rockin' Robin. It's Sherry over Robin here on these house shows in late October. The Rougeaus defeating the Hart Foundation. Tito Santana over Akeem by a countout. It's Bad News Brown downing Coco Beware. Mr. Perfect over Jumping Jim Brunzell. And the Ultimate Warrior putting away the Honky Tonk Man by countout. And we move on. 3 shows in 3 nights in Worcester, Mass at the Centrum, Chicago, Illinois at the Rosemont Horizon, and Lakeland, Florida at the Civic Center Arena, October 27th through the 29th. Going to see Brian Blair over Iron Mike Sharp. Paul Roma defeat Dangerous Danny Davis. King Haku over Jumping Jim Brunzell. Brunzell now filling in for the JYD, no longer with the company. Haku over Brunzell here. Big Boss Man downing Ken Patera. Greg the Hammer Valentine over Leaping Lanny Poffo. Poffo subbing for Don Muraco. It's Jake Roberts downing Rick Rude in a DDT versus Rude Awakening match. Also tag team champions Demolition over the British Bulldogs, and Randy Savage battling Andre the Giant to a double countout. So we see the effects of the JYD no longer here. Muraco gone as well. Lanny Poffo back on more of the house shows, and Jim Brunzell still being utilized in the house shows, at least until the Survivor Series. As we continue on, just a few house shows left, guys. October 28th and 29th in Greensboro, North Carolina, Crockett Country. At the Greensboro Coliseum, just 2,000 fans out for the WWF. Also on the 29th, Richmond, Virginia, the Richmond Coliseum. Going to see Sam Houston over Steve Lombardi. The Barbarian pin Boris Zukov. Dino Bravo over Jim Duggan on a countout. It's the Brainbusters finally making it to the house show circuit. Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard putting down the Rockers. What a fun match. A throwaway match in the middle of the card. My God. Jimmy Powers over Jose Luis Rivera as Conquistador #1. Red Rooster pinning Hillbilly Jim. Here's a match. And Hulk Hogan with his new buddy, the Mighty Hercules, scoring a victory over the $1 Million Man and Virgil. And I guess they thought that was going to draw in Greensboro here. 2,000 fans to see the Hulkster and Ted DiBiase out there. Though I got to give them credit. They did bring out Arn and Tully. Perfect time for the Brainbusters to hit the road here for the company as we move on to October 30th. A couple of shows here on the 30th as we conclude the show this week. Fort Myers, Florida at the Lee Civic Center. Going to see Paul Roma over Danny Davis. Brian Blair defeat Mike Sharp. King Haku over Ken Patera. DiBiase versus Mighty Hercules on the show. Don't have results for that one. Greg Valentine over Leaping Lanny Poffo. Tag team champions Demolition over the Rockers. Dino Bravo scoring a victory over Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And Hulk Hogan over the Big Boss Man on a count out there in Fort Myers. And finally, our last piece of business here this week. I don't have results, but some pretty big matches here. In Columbus, Ohio, the old Ohio Center. Going to see Jake Roberts and Rick Rude in the ring, plus the Powers of Pain and Bolsheviks. Brainbusters defeating the British Bulldogs by DQ here in Columbus. So we do have one result, plus Randy Savage against Andre the Giant in a lumberjack match. Bringing a little different action here. Heading into Columbus, Ohio, Bulldogs and the Brainbusters. Wow, that had to be fun. But all right, guys, that's going to wrap things up. We're all done here this week looking at the news, the Rougeaus and the Bulldogs. My God, and of course, all the results we just went through. Appreciate your guys' time as we head into the holidays. Wishing everyone out there very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. happy family time to you. Wishing everyone the best health. And of course, asking you all to be as safe as possible here as we head into the holiday stretch. Now, I'm going to do my best to keep grenades pumping out as often as I can through the end of the year here, but no promises, guys. Lots going on. In fact, right now, I'm in the middle of cramming 10 recordings into 4.5 days. And of course, with 10 recordings comes 10 editing jobs. So I've got a lot to do this week, heading into Christmas next week. So lots to go on here in the Ray Russell family household, purchasing presents, wrapping presents, and the honey-do list that my wife has put into overdrive leading into the holidays. And of course, I have family coming in. My oldest son's home from college, so lots going on here, but going to do my best to keep it pumping. And hey, guys, remember I promised some special guests will be arriving here on the show to co-host for upcoming episodes? Well, stay tuned in the next week or two. We're going to begin some of those special guest co-host episodes. In fact, stay tuned to the next episode as we begin announcing some of our guests that are going to be part here of the upcoming Wrestling Memory Grenade programs as we move into October TV next time around. Until then, just a reminder for everyone to go check out all the great podcasts over at WrestleCopia.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wrestling Grenade. You can also follow me on Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. 27,000 followers and counting right now on Facebook. Be a part of it, guys. Random live streams. You never know what's going to happen over there on Facebook. And subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade, which now not only features great old school wrestling video clips, but also our podcasts, our RSS feeds now connected to our YouTube as well. You can check those out there if you're a YouTube podcast listener. And last but certainly not least, got to encourage everyone to stop over to patreon.com/WrestleCopia. It's very important heading into the new year to keep those bills paid, to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network up and running, asking everyone to join today the $5 all-access tier, or if you have the money, the VIP Superfan tier, which features all the great video casts, including the Pro Wrestling Academy video cast with Dan Ginnity, the Coliseum video cast along with Gene Jackson, and various other video casts that coincide here with the Grenade, and upcoming soon, the return of Monday Warfare, the Battles Within, in video cast form. You're going to want to check all of that out, guys. Stay tuned. And if you're feeling the gift of giving, you can give a gift now as part of Patreon. That's right. Right now, you can head over to our Patreon, click on that gift button, look it up. It's right there for the patrons, and you guys can actually give a gift of a subscription, anywhere from 1 month all the way up to a full year subscription to your friends and family out there. Or vice versa. If you've had friends, family nagging at you, hey, what can I get you for Christmas? And you really don't know what to tell them you want the WrestleCopia Patreon. Not a bad gift at all with everything we're giving away over there for such a low, low price. But with all of that said and out of the way, we head into a new month of TV. I can't wait to see Akeem hit the ring, as well as the beginnings of the Red Rooster. The Brainbusters are upon us. The mighty Hercules about to make his baby face turn right there on TV. So much going on in the month of October. Can't wait to get into it. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. And if I don't see you guys before the holidays, again, want to wish everyone out there happy holidays, Merry Christmas, as we say here in my household. And until next time, this is Ray Russell saying from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I'll see you next time. Don't miss it. Be there!
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
Put that cookie down! Now! Overstuffed, ignorant, blood-sucking, dog-kissing, brainless, dickless, hopeless, heartless, fat-ass, bug-eyed, stiff-legged, spotty-lipped, worm-headed sack of monkey shit he is! Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?